wife shouldn't have dug that hole, Jim.
The Season 4 premiere of From had a cliffhanger that left us in such a chokehold that for a moment we all forgot that one of our favorite characters met a shocking fate at the end of the previous season. The death of Jim Matthews easily marks the biggest death among all the main faces in From. Sure, Boyd Stevens could be considered the protagonist of the show, but the story has also largely revolved around the Matthews family, especially because their unfortunate detour into the town pretty much kicked off the horrifying events of the show. Tabitha, Jim, Julie, and Ethan have always been crucial to the plot, so of course none of us expected any of them to be killed off anytime soon, but the arrival of the Man in Yellow has completely changed the trajectory of From. Given that he can shapeshift, walk in the daylight, quote the Bible, and touch the magic talismans, the Man in Yellow has pretty much overridden all the plot limitations that existed for the monsters in From. However, Jim's absence will certainly motivate the remaining Matthews to save the town and maybe even plot their escape. Having said that, is Jim truly dead in From Season 4? Without wasting another moment, let's find out.
Okay, slow down.
No, listen to me. I need to change the story, Dad, please.
So, in case you don't remember, during the end of From Season 3, Jim walked to the old RV that he and his family had driven into town before getting trapped. At this point, he was still reeling from the revelation of how Tabitha and Jade are reincarnations of Miranda and Christopher across multiple lives before being interrupted by a panicked Julie calling out to him. However, he was weirded out to see his daughter with a shorter haircut and scratches on her face. What was even weirder was how Julie kept asking her father to run as she needed to change the outcome of the story. Of course, Jim had no idea what she meant until, of course, a mysterious old man wearing a shabby yellow suit showed up. As he began to approach them, Jim asked his daughter to run as the man told him knowledge comes at a cost, explaining that he had warned him previously about the consequences of prying into the town's secrets. Before Jim could react, the Man in Yellow grabbed him by the throat and reminded him of a certain past warning from Season 1 about how his wife Tabitha shouldn't have dug that hole, echoing that same creepy voice that Jim heard over the radio back in Season 1. Jim looks shocked at what he just heard, and we watch as the Man in Yellow slashes his throat in a matter of seconds, leaving Julie mortified. Now, she had previously hinted that her father's death was coming, which basically confirms that this version of Julie is from the future, who's been story-walking and trying to return to this exact moment in order to prevent her father's death and change the story. Of course, we don't know exactly who this Man in Yellow is, but we do know for a fact that this wasn't the first time he met Julie, as he asked her where she had come from this time, and also warned her how she can't change a story that's already been told. This directly teases his long-running connection with the town, and also leads us to believe that this guy has probably been lurking in the shadows for a very long time. Plus, we watched him shapeshift into a teenage girl named Sophia, walk under the sun, and even quote the Bible, while remaining unaffected by the talismans, which means he could be the architect of the town's overarching cycle of chaos, horror, and despair, as he's clearly more powerful than any of the creatures we've seen in From so far. I guess Jim just knew too much after Jade and Tabitha regained the memories of their previous reincarnations, and that's why the Man in Yellow killed him. Well, one thing is for certain, Jim's absence could allow Tabitha to dig more into her reincarnations alongside Jade. We already saw how they were slowly growing apart, and of course, that would only get worse after Jim found out about her real purpose and history with the town. Without Jade tugging at the emotional strings, we think Season 4 will push Jade and Tabitha to explore more about their reincarnated lives as Miranda and Christopher. If Jim were stuck in this chaos, he would sort of become an obstacle for them. Plus, both Tabitha and Jade are still reeling from the fact that one of the ghoulish kids is technically their daughter. We don't think Jim would understand or empathize with the wave of emotions both Jade and Tabitha felt from their loss. That would inevitably lead Tabitha to push him away, so I guess Jim's absence would not only motivate her to find a way to fight back against the evils of the town, but also gives both Tabitha and Jade more freedom to understand how their lives have been closely intertwined with one another for centuries. Now, the main question is, will we see Jim come back from the dead? We know that the current Julie doesn't even know about her father's death yet, but her future short-haired version is a story walker, meaning that it was always Julie's destiny to walk through different cycles. This also means she'll have access to the knowledge of how each cycle or story ends, thus giving her an upper hand in the chaos. If she's smart enough to crack the pattern, she could end up saving her father. So far, the rumors say that Jim is supposed to appear in only 5 episodes of Season 4, meaning we will be seeing him in the upcoming weeks. While the show could bring him back for flashbacks, the optimist in me wants to believe that Julie could potentially save her dad. We know for a fact that Julie can't change a story after it's been told, but we do know she can change it while it's still running. Or else, how did she throw that rope down to Boyd in the well during season 2? If she couldn't affect the events, Boyd wouldn't get the rope. This basically means that Julie has to go further back in time to stop Jim from even entering the woods, thus preventing the man in yellow from even encountering him, let alone ripping out his throat. At the beginning of season 4, it was also implied that Julie had tried to save Jim several times, and that's why the yellow-suited man mentioned how they had to stop meeting like that. In order to prevent the same outcome, Julie has to figure out a different approach that the old man isn't aware of. We also have this nagging feeling that the current Julie we see in the present cycle might actually find a way to save her father, because at the end of the season 4 premiere, we see Tabitha, Ethan, and Julie go through yet another supernatural encounter when an invisible entity wreaks havoc inside their home. In fact, it feels like the classic haunting you'd usually associate with demons, possessions, or an exorcism as the food cooked by Jim falls off the table and the kitchen cabinet doors start slamming loudly. Now, our theory is that Jim is dead in the current cycle, and given how common supernatural happenings are in this town, it's actually Jim's spirit giving his family a warning about the man in yellow infiltrating the town as Sophia. We think he'll find a way to make contact with his family and eventually help Julie figure out her story-walking abilities so that she can walk through stories, travel back in time, and prevent Jim's death entirely by applying a new strategy to trick the man in yellow. But that's just our 2 cents. What do you guys think? Is Jim truly dead, or will the show resurrect him again? Let us know your thoughts and theories in the comment section down below.